Joey. Welcome back in, you guys, to another One Piece discussion. This time, we're here to talk about chapter 1175, titled Nidhogg. And or, if you're looking at the kanji, it is titled Thunder Dragon. Pretty cool stuff. Obviously, that does refer to Loki's devil fruit. But before we get there, we do have to talk about that cover page reader request where we see Sabo, Koala, and Koalas. I will admit, never been the biggest koala fan in my life. I don't think they're necessarily cute, but I will admit, in anime-manga format, they are kind of adorable. So usually we dissect these cover pages to hell and back, even if they're not canon. And this time around, I don't really have too much. Minus the obvious Sabo and Koala ship. I don't think a lot of people come into One Piece looking for romance. But I do look at these two characters, and I'm like, yeah, if you told me that by the end of story, or, after like a massive time skip, that Sabo and Koala end up together, I wouldn't be super shocked. Alright, so now, onto the first page of the chapter, we got Sanji using Diable Jambe to burn through and cut through Robin's viney, thorny prison. I'm assuming it's Diable Jambe and not Ifrit, because it would be kind of crazy if he used his ultimate ability off rip. So yeah, let's just go with that. Jinbei says, wow, turns out that fire-high temperatures is actually Saint Sommers' main weakness. Kind of furthering the whole thing about how Sanji is the perfect matchup against Sommers. I mean, not only does Sanji have the fire abilities that work well against Sommers, but Sanji also has the Germa exoskeleton. So generally, Saint Sommers' thorns shouldn't really be able to affect Sanji. Unless he coats it in hockey or something, I just feel like all of the thorns he would send Sanji's way would bounce off of his body like bullets off of Superman. So I've seen a lot of people, based off of this first page, slander Jinbei, saying, yo, we got a full-ass warlord right here. He has full body armament hockey if he wants to unleash it. He also has an axe, and you're telling me he had to wait for Sanji to free Robin? And I kind of agree. Jinbei's just one of those characters where I'm like, man, I feel like he should be able to solve a lot of our problems, but he just really hasn't. And even right now, it's like, hey, what is Jinbei gonna do now? Like, now that they're all freed, is Jinbei gonna rush off to the battlefield? Or is he gonna stay behind and put out the fires at the library? Of course, equally important, but I just feel like Jinbei's always been taking the backseat lately. So hopefully he does something good in the future. But for now, of course, the W goes to Sanji. And I feel like thematically, it makes sense that Sanji would do this, considering his whole thematic is saving women. So maybe Jinbei sensed it, right? He's like, oh, you know what? Let's have Sanji do this. He wants this one. Sanji says, this hockey, that roar. And that is when we cut over to, of course, Luffy and Loki. They're now in the Sun Realm, and they have arrived at the Western Village to drop off the kids and the parents. And the giants of the village are like, hey, Loki, this is not a safe place for them, man. The village is on fire. We're still fighting right now. And Loki says, that is not my problem. They're the ones who jumped on my back. I simply let them go. And I don't know why, but I really enjoyed this conversation because this is the first conversation Loki has had with the Giants of Elbaf in probably 14 years. Up until this point, they all thought he committed regicide. And now it's like nothing even happened, right? They're all like, hey, Loki, what's up? How's it going? And they're not shocked by Loki's appearance, by the way. And that's most likely because they've seen it already. They talked about how Loki wanted to escape crucifixion in the past, and it took all the Giants of Elbaf to bring him back. So yes, they know what this giant dragon actually is. They know what he's capable of. And boom, 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 we get a full spread of Loki's design, and he does look phenomenal, man. I do like myself a nice old Western dragon, and I do think Loki, at least in One Piece terms, looks phenomenal. So, Luffy, who's still on Loki's head, says, hey, Zoro, hey, over here. Zoro says, hey, you guys really took your sweet time. And it's like, okay, I'm glad Zoro's calling that out because I was thinking the same thing, right? I thought I was going crazy. Luffy and Loki were missing for like 3 chapters and so much has happened. It's like, wait, where did they go, man? I'm glad somebody else is like, hey, like, what's up with the time thing here? Zoro says, since you've already gone giant mode, can you guys take care of those dream nightmare monsters? Elbaf will not last long with those guys around. And my main takeaway from this little segment is, where's Dorian Broggy? You know, last we saw, Zoro was fighting them, and we saw them slice each other. So, was that the end of the battle? It shouldn't be. We know that Domi-Reversi people can actually regenerate. So, where are they? Are they still regenerating as we speak? Did they go off to fight somebody else? Is Hiredin and Stanson maybe going 2v2 against them? I am pretty curious about that whole situation. So, the next thing we get is Saint Sommers. He is crashing out now that everybody has been saved. He says, I'm not gonna let a single one of you trash heaps survive. You cheated me out of that amazing, touching moment. We see that he starts shooting thorns left and right, and his ability looks really freaking cool. He's got like this Cerberus vine serpent thing going on. He calls it his rapid fire thorn launcher. And man, dude, if Sommers, hear me out. If Sommers was, I don't know, in Thriller Bark, Enies Lobby, Fishman Island, this guy would be a madman. You know, it's just unfortunate that his opponents are the top tiers of the verse. The Pirate King's crew, Rayleigh, Gabon, Gearfifth, Luffy. I guess you can count Loki because of this chapter. It's like he's only going against top tiers, man. Put him against anybody else, I think Saint Sommers would do quite fine. But yes, he starts shooting thorns at the surviving parents and kids. The kids try to protect their parents because they love them. They said, yep, let them rest. It's our time to shine. They line up in a row, and Saint Sommers yet again starts crying out with joy. He says, you morons are priceless. At this point, screw it. I don't care about the mission. I'm just gonna kill you guys here and now. Which is so funny he says that, because when he sees that the kids survived, he's like, oh, cool. The mission's back on. Oh, the kids want to die? The mission's off again. Saint Sommers is like flipping left and right on what he wants to do. You know, on one hand, he has to please Imu-sama, but on the other hand, he wants to please himself. So Saint Sommers fires off his attacks at the kids, but that is when Zoro stops all of them mid-air. Luffy says, way to go, Zoro. I knew you had this in the bag. Saint Sommers is like, wait, who the hell is that guy? Which, also kind of crazy. Like, I feel like he should know who Zoro is. He knew who Luffy was coming onto this island. So it's like, dang, you didn't do the bare minimum of research? Like, when they hand out the bounty posters, they're sorted by crew. You know, they're stacked and categorized by crew. You should see Zoro right behind Luffy. But Luffy dials it in for Sommers and he says, hey, that guy, that is Zoro. He's a member of my crew and don't you forget about it. I found that line kind of hilarious because it's almost like a passing of the torch kind of thing, right? Like, oh, a couple generations ago, boom, the Pirate King and his crew are beating Sommers, and now it's Luffy and his crew beating Sommers instead. So after Luffy says this, he grabs a lightning bolt from the sky and he sets his sights onto Saint Sommers. Brother, I do not know what compelled Luffy to go this hard against him. Like, surely there was a less taxing ability to use against this guy, right? I feel like this is overkill. Also, gotta admit, I do love the scope thing that Luffy does here. Not because of the Toon Force aspect, but mainly because I feel like he's doing this since last time he used the lightning bolt attack, he missed. He tried to use this against Kaido, he threw it, it missed. So I think that's the reason why he brought out the scope. So instead of actually throwing the lightning bolt though, he envelops his fist in it and he slaps Sommers with a booming dawn Thor rifle. And this attack, man, this attack absolutely destroys him, breaks his teeth, splits his face into, I think, like 3 to 4 pieces. It reminds me of Courage the Cowardly Dog. Like, that was the first thing I thought of. Like, this is straight out of a cartoon. The giant kids and parents in the West Village take heed of Luffy's appearance, and they're like, yep, there it is. That's Luffy-kun's white form. Man, he looks just like Nika. He is the warrior of liberation. Saint Sommers, who is still alive, mind you, says, Nika, that's just a tall tale meant to scare kids. Loki, I think, hears this as well, and he also stomps on Sommers to end it all off. Is Sommers dead? I don't think so. I mean, dude, look at him. His face is split into multiple pieces. He has no teeth, and he's still talking. Loki going down, hitting him with the claw, I bet that also hurts a lot, but he's not done. You know, I've seen people saying, oh, you know, Saint Sommers is gone. We're never going to see him again. He's going to get back up. You know, these guys are straight regen merchants. And plus, you know, this is Luffy's first attack against Saint Sommers. Scopper mentioned that Advanced Conquerors Hockey is the way to beat these guys and that they're not immortal, but I don't think Luffy's mastered that yet. You know, I think Luffy has to hit Saint Sommers a couple more times before he truly gets the hang of how to fight an immortal opponent. But that's just my 2 cents. As far as Loki's stomp here, it kind of looks like there's hockey behind it or lightning behind it. Like the way he slaps him in, you hear the crunch, but you also see like lightning bolts coming out of the ground. I'm like, okay, that's kind of awesome, dude. You know, Saint Sommers, man, he's not having a good time. And I do wonder, like, how long will it be for him to get back up? After Scopper Gabon cut him in half, I think it took like 1.5 chapters. But after this, after being shattered into so many little pieces, I say give him 3 chapters. Give him 3 chapters, or maybe we just pull him out. You know, maybe that's the way to go. We cut over to Scopper Gabon, who is witnessing all of this on the sidelines, and he has a little flashback of the day King Harold died. It's a continuation, and we get Jarl explaining exactly what Loki's Devil Fruit is. He says that it is a mythological dragon fruit model Nidhogg. It is said that whoever eats it can transform into the world's most colossal dragon. The size of the dragon is relative to the initial size of whoever eats the fruit, of course. And the bigger you are, the bigger the dragon will be. So by Loki, an ancient giant eating this fruit, he has reached the fruit's full capacity. And I just gotta say, but I love the little graphic we got from Jarl here, showing like a human who is literally like a speck turning into a massive dragon, you know, a bigger guy turning into a bigger dragon. And it's like, okay, dude, yeah, this dragon is enormous. All right, so I would love some clarification here in general, but this part, right, where Jarl describes Loki's devil fruit, why is this happening? Not in the sense like, oh, why are we learning about it or anything like that, but if you go back to chapter 1171, in the officials and in TCB, obviously, I don't know Japanese, so maybe in Japanese it's a little bit different. But in that segment, in the same spot, Shanks and Gabon are like, hey, Jarl, that fruit is really powerful. Did you know anything about it? And Jarl says, not that I've heard, but it sends chills down my spine to think about what would happen if Loki wasn't here. And it's like, wait, what? Jarl says he doesn't know anything about the fruit at all. And then in this chapter, same spot, mind you, he's like, all right, guys, I got the full breakdown for you. And I just read Viz's translation, right? The officials. But even in TCB, he kind of just says the same thing. Like, yep, I have no clue, man. Your guess is as good as mine. And it's like, wait, what? You know, maybe the English translations across the board are a little bit wrong. Maybe they were referring to King Harold's power instead. That's my cope. Another cope would just be that the sword in Jarl's head really did him in. Like, they asked him the question, and he's like, I don't remember. Actually, it is the Nidhogg fruit. So, Shanks drops the $1 million question. He's like, okay, so the reason why the fruit is forbidden is because of its immense power, right? Jarl says, nope. It's actually just been protected this entire time by the guardian hammer Ragnir. In Elbaf, there is a legend about a god of war who fought with Ragnir. It is said that he took the form of a giant dragon and he locked horns with the sun god. He was also accompanied by his loyal partner, the ice squirrel Ratatoskr. Okay, there's a couple of things about this. First up, the Nidhogg reveal is crazy. Of course, we've talked about Nidhogg here a lot of times. I feel like a majority of the fan base has heard about the Nidhogg theory before, right? It was the most common theory with Loki. We saw the silhouette, we saw the similarities between Loki and the Nidhogg lore, so a lot of people did gravitate towards that already. Personally, I always liked the theory, but I did want Loki to be something more unique. But again, I never minded the Nidhogg route. But now that we do have confirmation that Nidhogg is in this story and Ratatoskr is confirmed, the only thing we're missing right now is the eagle from Norse mythology, who symbolizes the eagle in One Piece. I feel like there's a lot of good candidates out there. The most obvious one would be Shanks. I mean, hell, Shanks was the one who brought Loki back and chained him up in the first place. So Shanks being the eagle representative, I think makes a lot of sense, especially given his sword is named Griffin, which Griffin is an eagle mixed with a lion. And we have seen on multiple occasions that when Shanks attacks, there's usually an eagle behind him. Of course, those scenes are anime only, right? When he attacks Kid, eagle behind him in the anime. And then, of course, in Film Red, when he attacks Todd Musica, eagle behind Shanks as well. So right now, Shanks is my go-to answer, but if I had to erase Shanks from that list, I want it to be Hiruden. I know that's crazy. I know Hiruden has 0 feats on the board, minus MacVice, which I guess that's really cool, man. You know, he broke all of his bones fighting him, going extreme diff. But I really want Hiruden to get, like, another power-up. He wants to be king of all the giants in the world. He can't be a bum. You know, he cannot stay where he's at. So maybe there's a mythological eagle fruit out there. Maybe he gets a weapon that's also eagle-based. I don't know, man. I want Hiruden to be that guy. And it's Loki's brother. Come on, it's perfect. Outside of Hiruden, another great option would be if there was just simply another character in Elbaf that represents the eagle. Because you gotta remember, in Norse mythology, the eagle lives on top of the Yggdrasil tree. We have not been to the Heaven Realm yet. So for all we know, there is an eagle up there already. Aside from that, we also could talk about Biblo, the owl. We don't really know what's up with the owl. We do know that it is, centuries and centuries old. So maybe Oda kind of does a twist on Norse mythology and says, oh, instead of an eagle, it's actually this owl thing. We actually don't know where the owl is currently. Funny, I've seen some people saying that the owl is dead, like it got burned down with the library, and I think that's just absurd. Dude, it's an open library. The owl can fly out. The owl is hundreds of years old. I highly doubt a library fire would actually kill it. And we gotta remember, it has an unconfirmed devil fruit. Vegapunk theorized that it has the cum fruit. And it's like, okay, but that's just a theory. We really don't know what it's all about yet. So there is a chance that the owl shows up, and it's actually pretty crazy. Another candidate I've been seeing people say, but I think this is just more cope than anything, but I have seen a strong subset of people saying that the eagle representative from Norse mythology is going to be Usopp, the eagle-eyed sniper. I wish, man. You know, the thing is, I do believe that this is still Usopp's arc. Whatever that means, you know, whenever people say it's blank character's arc, it usually just means that they're going to get 1 or 2 really big moments. I think we're still due for it. I just think saying that Usopp's the eagle from Norse mythology is just crazy. I mean, I guess we don't know what the eagle has to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be strong. You know, it just has to be like that representative. And I do like the theory that Usopp wields Ragnir for a little bit. Not like he takes Ragnir, but, you know, maybe just like one combination attack. You know what? I'm gonna throw this a bone. I do not mind it. I just really hope Usopp does something soon. Was he even in this chapter? Wait. Go back to the first page. Oh yeah, I do see him. He is in that first page. He has his hands up saying, oh, that's our Sanji. Ha ha ha. Also, the whole thing about burning Robin's vines, Usopp could do that as well. You know, Usopp does have Firebird Star. Huh. I don't know, man. I feel like Usopp has so much potential. It's just rarely utilized, man. It's just so rarely utilized. I still hope for you Usopp fans, man. I really do. I hope he looks great, but that is still yet to be seen. So enough about Nidhogg and the Eagle. It is time to talk about the war god of Elbaf, the god of war. Yes, that is right. Kratos is confirmed to be an actual character in One Piece. And it's awesome. You know, this is not the first time we've heard about the God of War. In fact, this is a very old callback to Little Garden, where Dory actually mentioned the God of War. And that's pretty crazy, because it felt like a throwaway line at first. It felt like it could just be like a weird mistranslation because they never mentioned it again. But here we go. That one-liner actually is relevant. Kratos does exist. Sorry, I'm just calling him Kratos for now until we get like an actual name. But yeah, man, we got introduced to another god. And what is this? Like the 5th god in the series so far that we have confirmed? Because we have the sun god, we have the rain god, earth god, forest god. Those 3 gods, mind you, still we have not met. And now we have the God of War. It's like, dang, dude, what were they doing back in the day, man? Just nothing but gods running around? And we also see that this God of War was butting heads with the sun god himself. And what's fascinating is that I don't think that this is Joy Boy. Like, this is like the OG Nika, like the original sun god too. So this fight that we're seeing in Jarl's mind, it is most likely from the first world of the Harley text. So this is going to be a little bit of a tangent, and I do not think that this is related, but I just wanted to bring it up in case it is. I am on another rewatch of One Piece. I do this yearly, and I'm currently at the Luffy versus Katakuri fight. And of course, halfway into the battle, Katakuri goes in for his merienda. He starts eating his donuts, and what one of the chefs say is that Katakuri is going in there to meditate and to communicate with the God of War. But of course, I think in the Japanese, it's like the battle god or something like that. And when I saw that scene, I was like, wait, is that related to this at all? Like, is there like some weird string we can pull from it? Like, oh, maybe back in the day, the God of War also liked donuts? Or they also meditated a lot? I don't know. Again, I think it's a throwaway line, but who knows? Maybe it's not, and there is a hint to the God of War there somewhere. So now, the next thing we gotta talk about is Ratatoskr the Ice Squirrel. Back in the day, he looked very different. Of course, he wasn't merged with Ragnar, so that's a key thing. But aside from that, Ratatoskr looked a lot less chubby. Like, Ratatoskr put on a lot of weight, man, ever since his master originally died. And not just that, but in that image we have of Ratatoskr, he had like a snout or like a sharper nose. He also had pointed ears. And it's like, huh, I wonder if Ragnar could transform into his prime form if he wanted to. Like maybe this is his full Zoan form? Question mark? I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. And according to Jarl, as legend goes, after the God of War died, the loyal Ratatoskr came to possess the weapon Ragnar. We don't know how that happened. Of course, this is the first world we're possibly talking about here, so anything is on the board. Like maybe Ratatoskr did turn into a devil fruit, and we gotta remember, but Zoan devil fruits, they do have a will of their own. So you could simply say that the devil fruit willed itself into the weapon, or ooh, the devil fruit spawned, and then it slowly made its way to Ragnar. There's so many ways to go about this, and you know, when you go back 900 or 3,000 years ago to the first world, anything is on board. You know, it really could just be soul possession for all we know. So now we cut back to present time, and we see that Loki is going berserk. He is flying around, stomping on monsters, using lightning breath attacks. He calls it Thunderheim, and my god, Killingham's army is getting obliterated. We gotta remember though, that just like Saint Sommers, these monsters are somewhat immortal. You know, Killingham, last we saw, he blew his horn, and these guys got back up. So there is a chance that, yeah, come next chapter, they're still just warming around on the ground. And as we speak, as long as the nightmare holes are not plugged up, more nightmares can keep on spawning. The real solution to beating these nightmare monsters is to simply beat Killingham, which I think might be the go-to. And I kind of wonder who's going to fight him, right? Maybe it's going to be Loki. Luffy mainly dealt with Saint Sommers, and then Loki came in with the stomp finisher. Maybe we'll get the inverse, where Loki primarily deals with Killingham, like one-shots him, and then Luffy comes in and just slaps him away. I think that'd be pretty hilarious. And another thing with that too is that, hey, you know, we got to remember, Loki is a mythological dragon fruit. So is Killingham. You know, it is a match made in heaven, man. The only downside about that is that it kind of takes away a fight from the Straw Hats. Like, I really did think that Zora was going to fight Killingham. You know, Sanji's going to fight Sommers. It could still happen because they regenerate. But man, Loki and Luffy are seemingly dealing with 90% of Elbaf's problems in the blink of an eye. You know, they've been here for like, what, one chapter? Yeah, there goes Saint Sommers. The kids are saved. Nightmare monsters are gone. How much longer is Elbaf gonna last? It really just depends on Emu. So we see Emu dash Gunko, and they are floating in the sky. They're watching as Loki is destroying everything. And that is when we cut over to Emu's real body at Marie-Joie. And they say, so this is it. The Nidhogg. It was here. It was here all along. And here's the thing, man. I don't want to slander Emu, but it is funny when you think about it. It's like, dude, Emu, how are you surprised? The god of war of Elbaf had this fruit in the past, or at least this power. Of course it's an Elbaf, man. Of course it's here all along, dude. Yeah, hilarious stuff. I am really excited to see what Emu does next chapter. Will they be able to fight Loki and Luffy, or will they retreat? That right there, I think, is the big question, right? Because if there's anybody in this world that can beat Loki and Luffy, it's Emu. But right now, in Elbaf, Emu is nerfed. They're within Gunko's body. This is not the real Emu. So will Emu tactfully retreat, or will they stay and fight? We'll see. I hope they fight, man. I really hope Emu stays and at least shows us what they're capable of. Of course, Domi Reversi is crazy. Of course, the shotgun is crazy. But I want to see if they can throw hands. Like, how do you deal with a monster the size of Loki? Emu! Show us how it's done, dude. And also, I want to see what they have to say about Saint Sommers. Maybe it's one of those things where Emu looks at Saint Sommers and he says, understandable. Like, we gotta remember, Sommers is losing, but he's losing to Nika and Nidhogg. Can you blame a guy, right? It's like Garling losing to Roxy Zebek. It sucks, man. I wish he did better, but it's still Roxy Zebek. You know, at least we got that, right? So maybe Emu cuts Sommers some slack, or maybe he powers him up. You know, that is my go-to. Maybe Emu just distributes more magic. So, speaking of Emu, another thing I found fascinating, kind of like the Dorian Broggie thing, where we don't really know what happened there, but Brook is nowhere in sight. You know, Oda backs out, zooms out a little bit. We see Emu standing there. We see the branch, and Brook is not nearby. Where'd he go? Did Emu, like, fly away? Is Brook dead and gone? I have no idea, man. So, yeah, we do need more from the Brook scenario. We also need to see what the hell is going on Marie-Joie. Because if you notice, in that third to last panel, Marie-Joie is not on fire. Remember that? Remember how crazy that was? Emu showed up, said, okay, we gotta send Shamrock back. Marie-Joie needs our help. Emu's like, hey guys, what's taking you so long? The Holy Land is on fire. And it's like, what? It's not on fire. What are you talking about? Maybe this right here backs up the Elbaf time dilation theory. Maybe they spent so much time in Elbaf, even though it's been like what? Like an hour or two since Emu arrived, that time has passed in the real world, so much so that the Holy Land situation has been quelled. Maybe that's it. Or maybe they just really solved it that easily. Or maybe the fire is off to the side and we don't see it in that shot. I don't know, man. I think it would be interesting if that whole situation already got wrapped up. Hopefully we at least learn what's going on, though. Like, I would love it if we get a flashback of the attack. I think that's my one thing. I'm cool with it being time dilation. It's all done already. But I want to see it happen, right? Like, hey, can we like rewind the clock a little bit? Who attacked? Who stopped him? Did Shamrock succeed? I gotta know. But If time dilation is true, and if Shamrock and the gang solve the situation, maybe the God Knights show up. Yeah, because last week, that was the thing, right? Like, oh, do more God Knights show up? Do they not show up? And one of the big things was, oh, like, they're busy. They're all busy right now. If the situation is over and a day has passed already, maybe they're now rested up and they do come and back us up in Elbath. Ah, that's tough. That's tough. Yeah, like I said, for all we know, it is still on fire and we just don't see it. Ah, yeah, I'm going to hold some polls. I'm going to hold some polls about this. There's just a lot of questions, coming off of this chapter. Also, sorry, I'm like still staring at the Thunderheim attack. It looks so good. I mean, not only do we have like the lightning from Loki's breath, but we also have Black Conqueror's Hockey Lightning as well. That might be the strongest blast attack we've ever seen. And forgive me, it's been a couple of years. I know that sounds crazy, but Wano literally was 3 to 4 years ago. But did Kaido's Bola Breath attacks have hockey on them? I don't think they did. I think it was really just fire. But Loki has the lightning and he has the hockey. Yikes, man. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Loki's powerful. But with that being said, one more thing. Loki's black. Yes, confirmed he is jet black by Yarul. I still think he might have like some funky colors on the side. I still think the pink or purple might show it a little bit just to like accent it. But primarily Loki's skin color, wing color, maybe hair color, all black. Love to see it, Oda. In a world of rainbow colors and crazy, God Knight Barney designs, we got a jet black dragon, my guy. But yeah, that is it, you guys. Let me know your thoughts about this chapter down below. Of course, in the next couple of days, we will be coming back with a comment or reading video. So if you want your comment read, make sure to drop it down there. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this video all the way to the end. I really freaking appreciate it. And now I just gotta plug myself a little bit. So if you have the time, please check out my side channels over here at SYVDUCK Psyduck here on YouTube and Twitch. On YouTube, I post a myriad of videos, mainly horror gameplay. Right now, I'm currently playing through Resident Evil 9 and a couple of other things as well. So if you want to check that out, feel free to do so right there. And of course, I also have an anime reaction channel titled Somnus, where I react to Frieren, JJK, and later, soon to be, One Piece. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Catch you guys later. Peace out. Stay safe, guys.